being a leader. And the reason I chose this topic, this word, is because the word was angsty to me. I didn't like it. It didn't sit well. I don't like being told to be the head. I much prefer a following position. So I started by looking up the etymology of the English word lead, and the most basic meaning of it that I can find is to go first. So to lead is to go first. It's defined now to cause a person or animal to go with one by holding them by the hand, a halter, a rope, etc., or to be in charge or command of. So the first thing I think of this because another word that is called a lead is actually a leash. And we have, most of you know, we have a dog. His name is Max. He's a medium-sized dog, on the larger side. And as I was thinking about the relationship between a lead and a follow, I had to kind of ask myself, what relationship does that play if I am walking Max, who is leading who? Because it's really hard to tell sometimes. For the most part, he is physically ahead of me and going the way I'm going first, to go first. Though, of course, if he goes off path, then I am physically ahead of him, bringing him back to the path that we are going. But at all times, I am in charge or command of him, letting him go some areas and not letting him go others. So before I talk about the positions of leaders, I want to look at first the position of those who are being led, those who are following. And kind of started at the ground level and work my way up. Parents to children. How in Ephesians we see that children are supposed to obey and honor their parents so that it will go well with them and they will enjoy long life. This is also the first commandment of the promise. We see wives to husbands, how that is a lead-follow role, that wives are supposed to submit to their husband's authorities. And if wives are married to an unbelieving husband, to submit so that they may win over their husband. But even if not, they're following the example of like Sarah in the Bible, that the holy women of old did this, submitting to their husbands. We'll go back and talk about this, what benefits that has. But in biblical times, the husband was a physical and a financial cover for the wife. Also, we see a relationship of lead and follow between church leaders and the body. How the body is told to submit with confidence to their leaders, under their authority, following their direction. And it says that in this passage, Hebrews 13:17, it says, submit to them so that their rule over you is with joy and not grumbling, because that would be of no benefit to you. At my work, we just had, it wasn't an audit, but we had customers come. So we, everybody was on edge. From the top down, specifically how things work at a workplace. Everything rolls from top down. So the president of our company was anxious. The production manager under him was anxious, and all the way down, and that flows down to my supervisors and to me, to get everything looking well and running well and in and that our customers have confidence in us. Going along with that passage where it says, submit with confidence to your elders, so that their role over you is with joy and not begrudging. I can tell you, just from that example, that with the customer visit going well, the production manager bought donuts for the entire shift just because. That when you do well and your leaders are happy to be over you, it comes with many benefits.
Nice.
We also see this role of lead and follow between the general public, or people, and the government. We are told to submit, specifically with paying taxes and following laws. Submit, and because the government is in authority to commend those who do good, and to punish those that do wrong. Also in 1 Timothy it says that we should pray for those in governing positions over us, for the kings, for the governors, so that we can live peaceful, quiet lives in all godliness and holiness. So to submit to our governmental rule that is over us. And finally, now this is not an exhaustive list. There are many other lead follow roles. At the most basic meaning of lead is to go first, or the definition in our time to cause a person to go with you or be in charge of someone. There are very many roles of lead and follow, but the ultimate one is us personally to God, or us as believers to God. In James 4, it says to submit yourself then to God and to resist the devil, and he will flee from you. So our role in this follow-lead relationship is submitting, and the benefit we get from that is that the devil will flee from us when we resist him. Submit and resist the devil. And in 1 Peter 5, it says, humble yourself, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due times. So humble yourself under God's leadership, and he will lift you up. In Romans 13, it tells us that all authority belongs and is established by God. So this applies to every example I've given so far, that whether you are a child under a parent, whether you are a wife under your husband, whether you are a member of the body under the leader in the church, or whether you are a citizen under the government, the authority that is in position over you has been established by God. Why? Because all authority belongs to God. And not only that, in Matthew 28, it tells us all authority has been given to Jesus Christ, who is our Savior. Another thing about this is we do not steal, I guess is a good word, a leadership role. It's, if you are a leader, the authority that you have has been given by God. Also, when it says that all authority belongs to him, that if you have authority, it's because God has given you the authority over whatever you have authority over. So it is not taken in children over parents. The children are a gift from God. That is why the parents are put in that position of leader, because God gave them the child to be an authority over. Same thing with wives. There's a verse, I didn't pull it up, but it says that a man's estate and wealth come from his parents, but a wife is from the Lord. And in the church, in leadership position, it is not taken. You can't take up when it is offered, but it is elected, or as with apostles, they can choose leaders. So authority belongs to God, It's not something that you steal, you take up. If you have authority, it's been given by God. And if you are under authority, you need to submit to that because the authority you are under has been put in position by God for your good. Let's read John 13, 12 through 15. And when Jesus came down, he showed us something very special about leadership for us, specifically as believers. Again, John 13, verses 12 through 15. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. Do you understand what I've done for you? He asked them. You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that is what I am. Now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set you an example that you should do as I have done. Now, when I've read this verse in the past, it's like, okay, this is an example of evangelism, to go out and serve people to win them to Christ. Or this is an example of brother to brother, like talking to disciples, that this is how we are to treat one another as peers. But Jesus explicitly mentions his authority role in doing this. So this also applies to leaders, specifically, that Jesus Christ coming down and washing their feet was in no way putting off his role as a teacher and Lord over them, but demonstrating what leadership is supposed to be.
Yes.
That's, though you may be a follower and you do what the person over you says, you follow, they say you serve them in some instances, the role of leadership is even more so a serving position.
Yes.
As Jesus sets the example for us by washing the disciples' feet. It also says in Matthew 20, 25 through 28, if you want to turn there as well. Matthew 20, 25 through 28. Jesus called them together. This was right after the disciples were bickering about who would be greatest in the kingdom of heaven. Jesus called them together and said, you know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them, and their high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be your servant. And whoever wants to be first must be your slave. Just as the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve, and to give his life as a ransom for many.
Amen.
So again, God did not come down as taking on human flesh to put off his position as God, as Lord, or as teacher over us, but to teach us, to save us, ultimately, but also as an example of what leadership is.
Yes.
It is to serve those that you are over. So, let's look at that list again, starting from the bottom again. Parents and children. In speaking to parents now, instead of children, we're said children. Obey your parents. For the parents, you are commanded to train up your child when they're young, and then when they are old, they will not depart from it. In Colossians it says, do not embitter your child or provoke them to wrath, so that they become discouraged. And in Proverbs 13, it says, whoever spares discipline hates his child, but if he is careful to discipline your child, they love them. And if you discipline your child, you save them from death. So discipline is something that children do not like. We actually talked about it in Sunday school. Praise be to God. That it is not pleasant. It is not what the children enjoy or like, but they are still told to obey their parents and to honor them.